jumped in and started responding. So I was like, yeah. So yeah, we can chat like at the break or after class.
Hey, this is Al. We are in Philadelphia at the Kelly Writers House. We have a full room of friends. I'm not actually going to introduce everybody because people are going to be able, I think most or everyone here will be able to offer a final word. So we'll see them when we get here. A couple of announcements, and then we're going to get started. So if you want, there are final words in the final words thread. There are lots of them, 100 at this point. We might quote a few. But mostly what we're doing is asking you to call in, and the people in the room and the TAs. And we have Erica and Molly so far. Good morning to you both. And Jake will be joining us in between classes out there in Palo Alto. And Allie will be joining us at the beginning only, although I don't see her yet. Michael, do you mind moving one seat over? Because it's hard for me to see the Google Hangout. Sorry. Michael is here who does sketches, so he's going to have... And do you post them or you email them to me? You post them. Great. Everything's falling apart. Sorry. And we have lots of stuff. We also have a couple of voicemails. And so here are some quick announcements, and then we will get started. ModPo begins as of around noon today, and then it goes until Saturday, September 7th, 2019, when we go into 10 weeks of the so-called symposium mode, where we're all back. ModPo, it can be anything. It can be a few people gathering in their own thread, talking about going slowly through a poet's work. We also will organize some ModPo discussion groups. David, which one did you do last year? You did two, I think.
I did Elizabeth Willis.
Elizabeth Willis. And I'm going to be doing May Bersenbrugge's poetry starting in early December and going for a month. So stay tuned for that. Anna is teaching a regular pen for credit version of the course. If you're interested in that, let us know by writing us at modpo@writing.upenn.edu. That's fun. It's actually for credit, and it's sponsored by the School of Liberal and Professional Studies. So technically, it's not really part of the Writers House, but it is ModPo. There's going to be a San Francisco meetup on the 17th of January, Thursday. There's going to be a Los Angeles meetup on Friday, January 18th. Some version of the ModPo crew will be out there. And I want to invite everybody to make CCCR videos, community collaborative close reading videos. Do it on your own. Upload it to YouTube. Let us know it's there. We will link it to that page. There's probably about 110 videos there now, and we hope it'll grow to hundreds and thousands over the years. I want to begin and end with a special thank you to Chris Martin and Zach Cardner. They are in the back there. They're hardly ever seen. Yes, Dave, that's right. They're going to get final words. Usually Zach says, "It's been fun, thanks," and Chris just smiles. And anyway, that's the whole tech guy thing where they don't, but we're going to try to get them to actually say what they feel about all this. So emote, please. Okay. So we're going to go to someone. Well, I guess Erica's so experienced in final words that if you don't mind, Erica, she's thinking, I don't have my final word ready. I'd like to start with Erica, and then I'm going to try to go all the way around and give everybody a chance. There are people on the phone already, 610-616-3208. So, Erica, thank you so much again for being with us. You're very busy up there at Bard College, we realize, and you're very faithful. Your office hours are a huge hit. Thank you. Do you have a final word for us?
I do. First of all, thank you, and thank you to the larger community. This year, I've felt really grateful for the community of ModPo because it ensures me that I have time built into my schedule to think about the things that I care the most about, poetry and teaching. And more specifically, I guess my final words are really thank you to the global study group, I think that they're now calling themselves, which is Terry Reif, Terry Talty, and an assortment of other people who gather and talk about a single poem each week. And they've often come to my office hours, and this year they really drew my attention to a whole number of poems I hadn't thought about before that were in ModPo Plus. And the experience of doing a close reading with people all over the globe, focused on poems that I hadn't necessarily really read before I was asked a question about them, was something that was really valuable and kind of helped me get through the fall.
Erica Kaufman, everybody. Thank you, Erica. You're amazing, and it was so fun having you here recently. We're going to take a final word from the phone, but then after that, I'm going to ask Jamie if he would do his final word. So who's on the phone, Lily?
On the phone, we have new CTA Michelle calling with a final word.
Oh, great. Hi, Michelle. How are you?
I am a little nervous.
Oh, don't be nervous. We're all friendly, right, Ambrose?
I know you are. It's just wonderful being part of this course and being first a student in it, and then this year is my first year at the CTA, and I've just absolutely loved every moment of it. And I just wanted to say hi to you and the TAs and the CTAs and just the whole worldwide ModPo family. I really enjoy being part of this experience. And I just wanted to make sort of a last comment or question. When I first joined ModPo, I was very definitely in the Emily Dickinson camp, but this year I've become much more open to the Whitmanian side of poetry, and I think a lot of my favorite poems and poets have that influence in them. And, the blab of the pave is quite alluring, but what I wanted to ask is whether poetry has veered too much towards blab of the pave and whether a correction might be imminent. I was just wondering what you might think the way poetry might develop from here on out.
Michelle, thank you so much for your work as a CTA.
Oh, you're
and
welcome.
For hanging out. I mean, just to make it clear to everybody, the CTAs are volunteers. They just do this because they're enjoying it. And you've done a lot of great work, so thank you. I'm going to defer the question. Today's not a question day, but I'm hoping that everybody who's in the forums will take up the question and talk about it. I think a lot of people in this room would say there's maybe too much blab and we need to go back to a little more succinctness, but I'm gonna punt on that. So thank you, Michelle, for calling.
Well, thank you for taking my call.
See you soon. Stay with ModPo. All right.
I will. I most definitely will.
Okay, thank you. All right.
Bye-bye.
610-616-3208. So Jamie's going to be up next, and then it's going to be Jason. Hi, Jason.
Hi, Al.
You're amazing. But it's not your turn yet. Jamie. Hi, Jamie.
All right. I don't know. This is my third class in this room in a row, and it's been a really interesting ride here at the Writers' House. I mean, I'm talking about it like it's done, and that's the whole issue with final words, is that they don't signal that anything is done, even though they say they're final. There are still words after, which is kind of the point of this course. So, what am I saying?
You're saying something actually quite profound. There's been 3 courses, but they don't seem to end.
No, none of them quite end. They all kind of overlap because we're still talking about Bernadette Mayer and we're still talking about Dupre and Ceylon. But I think this has been a really grounding place for me, and it's been really, really important to have this place where the kind of thinking and writing and thinking while writing that we do can exist here and can provide like a space for, I don't know, a different space than the rest of this chaotic campus and a different space than the chaotic world around us. And I think it's been really important for me.
Thank you, Jamie. Snaps for Jamie. Thank you so much for being part of this whole thing, actually. We're glad you're part of it. Jason's up next, and then I'm going to ask, we have someone on the phone. So, Jason.
Okay, bear with me. I wanted to...
Wait, now you're asking us to bear with you?
Yeah, please bear with me. I tried to write something out, but it's less coherent than when I usually speak.
Wait.
What?
No, I'm really excited that you wrote this out. And you're actually talking about taking something you said earlier that got transcribed and this and making it into an essay. And I can't wait for you to write that essay.
I can't wait to write that essay, which are words that haven't come out of my mouth
Okay.
as long as I can remember.
Okay.
Um,
Wow. You blow my mind every day.
I think that...
Wait, now you're improvising instead of reading?
What's
Oh.
the name of the caller?
Michelle?
Michelle. And in response to Michelle, I think one...
Oh, you're going to answer her question.
I'm going to answer her question by reading a couple little poems and my own little manifesto. And I'm beginning with a poem by Rumi, who is a Sufi poet. And in part, I wanted to read it to bring attention to the destruction of the Sufi communities in Syria. Aleppo was the home of the whirling dervishes and has been basically leveled. So I think that the pronouns in this poem are at play. It's rather short. The freshness. When it's cold and raining, you are more beautiful, and the snow brings me even closer to your lips. The inner secret, that which was never born, you are that freshness, and I'm with you now. I can't explain the goings or the comings. You enter suddenly, and I am nowhere again, inside the majesty. It's by Rumi. And I wanted to thank people who had come to my office hours, including Trey, Lisa, Colette, Lawrence, Dina, T, Terry, Mary, Martin, Rex, Nicholas. And what I was kind of working on last night was just to say that what we do in ModPo is to look closely at works made of this most ephemeral of materials, language, created by breath and mark, and in Braille and sign language. I recently saw a reading in which a poem is read to a deaf-blind person through a process of tactile signing. So the language, we have to always remember that language can constantly take different forms and enter the body through various senses. So we do this in a global community of English, one language which, given its dominance, increases the urgency that it be kept fresh, open, and welcome to new articulations and words. It must expand and include, embrace new articulations. It is poetry, and our reading of poetry is a practice that is profoundly political because it resists the way politics tries to limit the language, to limit the scope of possible thought through dissemination through the media, through the repetition of meaningless or deceptive phrases, the twisting of words into weapons. Here we activate language to look into its possibilities for creating new realities ahead, new ways of experiencing and articulating love and home. In one of the threads, Sanjeev and Greg were discussing, in one of the forums, Dante's choice to write in the vernacular. A path underway is poetry in which languages other than English assert themselves and interact with English. And I think that's one of the future possibility, one of the futures of poetry. Love would have to be the cliche of words in perhaps all languages, but I think the one word we must always protect by expanding its reach, applying it increasingly to the variety of situations which we both inhabit and are always in the process of creating, naming, unnaming, sneaking into official language, as Ashbery's instruction manual shows. There are new places brought into being by language, seriously irreverent. To attend closely to language is to love it, to love the world and being it makes possible. An embodied cognitive practice we must always remember in the digital age, one that connects us to the world and can make the stakes of the world more visible, available. Ophelia Zepeda, one of the Tohono O'odham tribe who inhabit and walk across the U.S.-Mexican border in Arizona, writes both in her Tohono O'odham tongue and in English. And she and her tribe are protesting any wall or the mending of fences between borders. She publishes her work in both Tohono O'odham, which she herself created the written version of, reading in both languages. I'm almost done. So a brief Ophelia Zepeda poem. We travel carrying our words. We arrive at the ocean. With our words, we are able to speak of the sounds of thunderous waves. We speak of how majestic it is, of the ocean power that gifts us songs. We sing of our respect and call it our relative. In reading through the forums, it is clear that ModPo isn't only a collaborative reading, but a collaborative poem itself of love, trust, intimacy, risk, and language, this odd material that connects us from interior to exterior, making a home for each other across time and space. And I just want to end with an excerpt from Patrick Rosal's poem, which I did get to discuss in my office hours a little bit, the Uptown Ode that ends on an ode to the machete. So this is, I wrote, I am so scrambled by this poem in the way an O'Hara poem might have scrambled a reader way back when. Rosal's dance floor seems to me a kind of rejoinder to O'Hara's easy, unmarked movement around Midtown during lunch. Rosal wrote, it's not even 5 past midnight in El Barrio, and I'm nodding to Jibo spinning one ill cut after another, just 2 degrees shy of the night's full swerve, which is to say, at some point, we stop amid the Macumba Boon, Bradabambula, to watch the dip and sway of this motley flock, and dear brother Will leans over to me and says one word at a time, we are all trying to get home. And I'm so grateful and lucky to inhabit this home of this global ModPo home that we've all created together. That's it.
Thank you, Jason. Jason Siska, everybody. Thank you, Jason. Welcome home. Welcome back home. Okay, we have someone on the phone, and then after that, I want to turn to Ray Maxwell, who gets the prize today for traveling the greatest distance to join us from Washington, just beating out Jason Doherty, who came from Baltimore. But anyway, so phone caller, and then Ray. Who's on the phone?
On the phone, we have Dominic calling for a final word.
Dominic?
Hello.
Dominic Weston.
That's correct. How are you?
Very well. Thank you for joining us this year. This was great.
It's a pleasure. It's, I just tweeted, in fact, before I joined, saying I saw the course just on a tweet 2 days before it started from a poet who I follow, and I thought, oh, what's ModPo? Had a look, then enrolled, and then here we are. Wow. So
that's crazy.
For you.
I'm so glad our marketing worked.
Yeah,
it was actually it didn't work because it was through somebody else that you found out about it. Anyway, that's great.
I was retweeting yours.
Yeah.
No, it's great, and it's been a fantastic 10 weeks, and I've learned so much, and I've learned about learning. That's the incredible thing, is I've never learned in this way before, which is so effective and so positive and so encouraging of everyone.
What is this way? You've never learned in this way.
This way, I suppose, is where you take something and you develop and you build and you ask each other, and you don't just get given something that you read up on, then you get tested on, then you move on again. I think it's a way it just builds and builds, and that builds sideways as well as forwards.
Yeah, great. Dominic, thank you so much for being part of this. I hope you'll come back next year.
I'm sure I will.
Okay.
It's been great. Thank you very much to everyone,
Thank you,
especially
Dominic.
the mentors.
Snaps for Dominic. And now, Ray Maxwell, followed by Michael Shea. Hi, Ray. Do we have some sound, Chris? Okay. While he's fiddling with this, Ray joined us at the last minute in 2012. This is your 7th ModPo. That's amazing. And life was so complicated for you in 2012, and now it's easy.
It was, and it is.
Yeah.
This won't be the first final words where I've recited one of my poems, and so you all are in for a real treat. For some reason, I was flipping through videos, and I came across the video that Al did in that glacial stream about the frost poem.
Yeah.
And I looked it up.
For once, then something.
I looked it up. For once, then something. And I said to myself, that sounds very familiar. I've written a poem about that once upon a time. Well, you know, I do this NaPoWriMo where you write a poem every day in April. And when you do NaPoWriMo, you may write anything because you're just in a mad dash to crank a poem out. So one NaPoWriMo, I wrote a poem that I'm going to read to you all for final words. The prompt was, write something from mythology. So I entitled this Narcissus. Now, if you go to the Reading Out Loud study group, you can find this. And while I'm on that, big shout out to all the folks, all the members of the tribe of the Reading Out Loud study group in the forum. Oh, okay. Narcissus. We stare into our computer screens. Its retina display, of course, clearer than one's reflection on a still pond. The image we see of ourselves is sharp and well-defined in Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and all the rest. Even in the poetry we write and post, we fall in love with that image, that reflection we see. We worship the likeness we have created, validated by likes and shares from all our imaginary friends. We think we are godly, all-knowing. We believe we now know all of beauty. Entranced, we cannot move away to eat or sleep or love. We waste away. We die. A flower marks the date and place, a timestamp of our delusion. That's it.
Ray Maxwell, everybody. Thank you, Ray. Thank you for hanging out with us for 7 years and actually being one of the first to take advantage of the idea that participants in this course can teach the people who offer the course, because you constantly pushed us to consider this and that, and made trips up here in those early years fairly regularly for Webcasts, and then formed that Washington, D.C. group, which more or less continues to this day. So, but we're so grateful for your involvement, Ray. Thank you. Okay, so we are turning to Michael. After that, I'd like to ask Molly to do her final word. Michael.
Okay. So this is not my 7th time through ModPo, but my first. And I think what I've been most impressed by and sort of taken with more than any curriculum or individual poem has been that sense of community that's been built. And I think it so sort of strongly fulfills the real goal of education, right, which is bringing people together and some sort of shared perspective and to sort of build those links that keep us from being atomized and individualized and alienated all the time. And so that for me has been sort of the lasting abiding sort of benefit of ModPo. It's been really, really impressive. And in saying that, it's the final word, but it never ends. So,
thank you, Michael. What is the state of being unalienated inside an educational institution? It sort of is a contradiction, isn't it? Because being in school is always already alienating. So is there any way to describe what it would be like to be unalienated? I think that's the word you used.
I don't know that you could be unalienated. You can only be moving away from alienation. I think it's more of a process, which, again, I think that's ModPo. Right? I've been getting these automated emails about like a certificate.
Oh, no.
And that...
we try not to have those happen. But.
Right. And it seems like, oh, yeah, I guess there's that part of the class, too. But that seems so antithetical to what's actually happening.
Yeah.
Like a certificate
someday, and this isn't the time, but we'll have a conversation about how hard it was in 2012 and 13 to get Coursera, who hosts the platform, to turn off some of that automation. I mean, ModPo is an unautomated MOOC, which is really hard to pull off. But I still get it, like... You'll really feel much better if you would take that quiz on Laureen Niedecker. Like, no, I would not feel better. I wrote the fucking quiz myself. Like, I don't need to take the quiz. Leave me alone. Anyway, thank you, Michael, for being involved. Okay, so we're going to turn to Molly, and after Molly, I want to ask Kristen Gallagher, who's a special guest today, to give her final word. So, hi, Moll.
Hi, good morning.
Hey, good morning. Thanks for joining us. Are you going to be there when we get out to L.A. on the 18th? First of all, is L.A. going to be there, I guess is a question. But assuming L.A. will be there, will you hang out with us?
Yeah, of course, I'll be here.
Great.
I'm a little emotional. It's so early in the morning to have some ModPo tears, but I feel like I'm just echoing what everybody else has said so far. The California is kind of a scary place to be right now, and the world is a really scary place to be right now, I think, for a lot of people. And ModPo has been equal parts refuge and revolution. On some days, I come here to the forums and to office hours, and it feels like an escape. And on other days, it feels like we're building something really important and we're figuring out new ways to relate to one another. And Jason said something about the course itself being a poem. And yeah, of course. I don't know why that hadn't occurred to me before. Like, the thing that we're building here is so meta, right? If we talk in the course about how form is content, right? How we say is as important as what we say. And if we could just keep blowing this up bigger and bigger and get to a place where somehow the whole world could be a poem and we could all be contributing our own voices in this really loving and creative and, democratic way. God, where would we be? Why can't we get there? Let's just get there. How do we do it? Tell me how.
Molly, thank you. And, I would invite you to say something briefly about, we didn't know that when we created this in 2012 that it would last at all. We certainly didn't know what to expect when we opened the doors in that year. The first year there were 53,000 people in the course. We had no idea. But do you have a reflection on those 7 years? I mean, it just keeps going, obviously, but you've been there the whole time. What have you seen?
I mean, it keeps going, and it seems like it gets a little bit more political every time, and it gets more inclusive every time. And I always sort of come back feeling like an alien because I'm not in academia during the rest of the year, and I always sort of expect to feel othered, and then I'm not, and then I'm welcomed along with everybody else, and I'm hoping that everybody feels that way when they come here.
Thank you. Molly O'Neill, everybody. Hey, Molly. Okay, so we're going to go. Who did I say was going to be next? Kristen. And then we've got someone on the phone. So Kristen, two things about Kristen. One, she was here, not in this room, but the room next door in the living room on October 25th, 1995, when we met to decide that this was going to be a writer's house. There was no heat on, no electricity. Still no heat. I don't know, where the hell? No electricity. The front door wouldn't lock. And we dreamed of a writer's house for the writers at Penn, who were very much marginalized and still are, except now we have a house to be marginalized in. But anyway, and then the other thing to mention about Kristen is that she embraced ModPo as a kind of outward expression, outward-facing expression of the Writers' House that she'd helped to found, and as a professor at LaGuardia Community College, actually has taught the course with her students, and so is a great friend and fan. So, and I'm a fan of yours, Kristen. Hi.
Likewise, everyone. Yeah, so that's what I was going to say when you asked me to speak. It's amazing to me to think back. I was thinking, well, what year did I take that class with you? It was fall of 1995 that I took the in-person pre-internet version of this class.
Yeah.
Well, I guess the internet kind of existed, but it was really early.
It was on the web, actually.
Yeah, no, we did. We had an email list.
I think we stopped using the Norton Anthology as a book in 1995.
Yeah. No, but it was really early internet. We were kind of in the back end on Elm and Pine, right? We had to know
Yeah,
minor
and they wouldn't let
coding.
Undergraduates have email accounts. I had to fight to let. Can you imagine? No, you can't have electronic mail accounts. You're not in the engineering school. Seriously.
Yeah. So fall of 1995, I was working in science. That's what my educational background was. I was thinking about applying to PhD programs in psychology and becoming a therapist. And Alex Edelman, my friend, said, you should take this poetry class. It's about more than poetry. You'll like it. It's all big, heady stuff. You'll really like it. I said, okay, I'll take it. Why not? And by the end of the semester, I was remembering that I was a poet and applying to graduate school in literature. So ModPo really does go on forever because now I'm a professor. And I teach a lot of this material. A lot of my pedagogy comes from this experience. Used to be English 88, now it's ModPo, but from Al and from the other people I've met in the context of ModPo. So it is something that I think it really, you can hear other people talking about it in various ways. It changes you. It engages your mind in a very new way, and there's no going back after that. So it changed my life. I'm forever grateful. And I feel like I have a community here forever. I just come in and I still always know all these people, Yeah. So thank you.
Thank you. Kristen Gallagher, everybody. Thank you so much. And we're going to hang out. Some of us are going to be hanging out with Kristen later, so we're going to talk more. Thank you. Okay, so after the person on the phone, I would like to turn to Joel for a final word, who was quizzing me on what a final word is, but now he knows. So he's giving me that Joel look. Who's on the phone, Lily?
It's our dear, dear friend, T. de los Reyes.
T in Manila. Davey's pounding his heart chest. Is that what we do? Hi, T.
Hello.
Hey.
Hi.
What time is it there? It's 1 a.m. or something?
Past midnight.
Midnight. Not bad.
Yeah, not bad.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Staying up.
Yeah, we've been through a lot together. There are some times when you call for final words and there was a monsoon hitting Manila and you had to get out of town, and we've been through a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've been thinking a lot about because I've been traveling this year, and every time I go to one country, it's, when you first arrive, you feel sort of displaced. And then you try to find some familiar things to you that would make you feel comfortable. And, I guess it's not surprising that I turn to ModPo as sort of my fixed point every week. So, and I want to, convey that to everybody who's still trying to get through the course or finish with the course or interested to go through SlowPo, that ModPo can remain your fixed point throughout the year. I'm sure it has been that way for a lot of people like me and Mandana and, some friends along the way that I've met through ModPo. And I guess also throughout traveling, I've discovered the kindness of strangers, which I think is perfectly applicable in ModPo, because you meet a lot of great people that you wouldn't expect to be part of your life, but then they do. And then it's become years and you realize, wow, it's years. And you've built friendships and relationships, and ModPo doesn't just become this course that you take, but it becomes part of you. The people become your family. So I think that's one of the great things that ModPo has given to me. And what else? Lastly, one of the things I do when I'm traveling is I send a postcard to myself. And then when I get home, there's like this version of me, a past self, talking to a present self or a future self. And I think ModPo is like that as well. When I go back through the poems in the previous weeks, or some poem that I didn't really paid attention to, but years after means something more. So I think those kinds of revelations will be what makes the experience more worth it, I guess. So I'm really glad to be here and for you guys to be part of my life and for ModPo to exist. So thank you.
Thank you, T. Do you know T. De Los Reyes? Hey, thank you, T. Listen, you know, way back, because I was a teacher when the internet became a thing, and as Kristen was pointing out, and they said things like, people who were advocating this thing that became the internet, they said, you'll be able to make friends across the world, and you might not ever meet them, but they will be friends. And I said, oh, that's bullshit. You have to be right next to a friend to have a friend. We're friends, right? You're giving me like a, you have to, yeah, but T, this is like, we've known each other for 7 years, and you are a friend. I feel nothing but love for you, and we haven't met, and it's not likely that we will meet, and that yet it's a real friendship. If you needed something, I'll be there, and if I need something, I know you will respond as you have already. So thank you for being a friend.
Same here.
Yeah.
Same here.
Okay. All right. Thanks, T. Have a great night.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
See ya. T, everybody. Wow.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Okay, Joel, follow that. Anyway, this is Joel, and after Joel, we're going to turn to Amber Rose Johnson for a final thought. Right up next to the mic. Yes. Joel.
Okay. I just have something simple to thank the course for, which is bringing poems that I didn't know, and because I didn't know them, I didn't like them, to my attention. Not at all really by having the vast corpus of poems on the web, but by creating situations for all sorts of people to emphasize the poems as poems that other people ought to read, or the poems that they were excited about. And the force of those enthusiasms, I guess, or not even enthusiasms, but the involvements that various people had with the poems and that are available in the forums to read, or in the essays, for me gave me a way into them, or a reason, motivation for caring about them. And also just to thank specifically the TAs and Al also, whose emphases were in my experience in the class the strongest, and for bringing texts both within the ModPo syllabus and from without very forcefully and kind of passionately into my consciousness.
Thank you, Joel.
Yeah.
One thing I'll remember from what you just said is that, and I'm probably messing it up, but you know, I was taught to encounter poems more or less. It's me and the poem. It's me and the poem. And if other people liked it, that's fine. But doing this has made me realize that you encounter a poem, but if you encounter a poem that other people have been enthusiastic about, you're going to give it the extra chance. So there is a social reading, even if ultimately it's your eyes in the poem or your ears in the poem. So those two things at once. Amber Rose Johnson.
Hi, Al.
Thank you.
Thank
you are
Al.
a light of my life. You just, I mean, no, really, you illuminate all kinds of things. And these past few years have been so much fun working with you.
Thanks, Al.
And you are rocking those glasses today.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, okay, my final word. This is my second final word. My last final word was really funny.
It really messes up the idea of final. This is my second final word.
I know. Yeah, I'm so grateful for ModPo. I'm so grateful to be a TA for this course. I want to start by thanking the folks that were really faithful and really loyal to my office hours. I started out, I was inspired by Davey this year to try to theme my office hours. And so the two questions that were asked every week in my office hour was, what's so experimental about insert week here? What's so experimental about the beats? What's so experimental about language poets? And the other question was about poetry and performance and trying to use performance as a lens to read through every week. And Nicholas, Alana, Meredith, Anthony Watkins and lots of other folks have come to my office hours, but those folks have been with me almost every week and have really challenged me to think so critically about those questions and have helped me, have sent me manuscripts, have sent me other works, have challenged me to think deeply about those questions. And it's had such a profound impact on my graduate work outside of ModPo. So to convene with those folks and to be taught and teach at the same time has been really lovely. So shout out to y'all. And I want to take a moment to also especially thank the other TAs that I've gotten to work with in the class, especially Anna, Lily, Davey, and Al. This has been a difficult semester for me, and y'all have provided endless, like overflowing love and support in so many ways. And I'm so grateful, and especially Al, to you for your vision for this whole crazy thing that you've pulled off here. And that you continue to show us how to manifest crazy and brilliant and loving ideas and how to bring people together. And I'm eternally grateful for that. So, yes, bless.
No, you're crazy. You're crazy. I mean, Amber Rose Johnson, everybody. You're crazy. I mean, you saw crazy, whatever that means, you saw crazy and said, I can sign up for that crazy because that's going to make me, that's going to keep this whole thing humane or humane-ish. This whole thing meaning the getting of a doctoral degree and so forth. Thank you, Amber Rose, for that and everything. Molly, Yolanda House, who's I think in her first year or maybe second year. Molly, you're going to make me cry. This is my first ModPo, so first ModPo. And you've summed up my feelings well: inclusion, inspiration, intelligence, warmth. So Yolanda, you check that out, Molly, and you guys can talk. So I am going to turn next to Sophia, who's hiding and hoping that she doesn't get called on, but in fact she's back there. But before Sophia, I want to just want to quote a final word from Jen Lanter. So Jen, she and I were going back and forth by email, actually. I don't think she posted a final word to the forum, but this somehow got me. It's sort of family season. It's sort of like I am pushed to the limit right now with work. I'm really freaking out. Actually, I don't seem it, but I am. There's just so much work to do. And there are people who depend on letters of recommendation, and I need to get to them, and it's just a hectic time. And yet everybody in the family is going to show up in a couple of days, and including my 88-year-old mom, who's like, here's my list of things you have to buy at the store, because if I don't eat these particular things, you don't want me like collapsing, you know, right there on the, you know, she's Jewish mom. She has a way of doing this. Anyway, Jen Lanter wrote, and I was so moved by what she said, because I'd asked her when she does ModPo, and Jen is very busy doing a lot of things, including making sure a house and family stay together. And here's how she does ModPo. And she's done it. Listening to webcasts in my kitchen Friday afternoons while cooking for Shabbos. Sitting down to room temperature coffee when my younger son leaves for school. I'm on a deadline for Playbill. She has written for Playbill. But my words will have to wait for yours. Through the car, Bluetooth, driving to my dad in Staten Island Hospital. That's where I lost it. Later to visit my widowed mom in her empty Staten Island home. Mostly way too late, house asleep, imagination feasting, closing my eyes, listening, then hearing, then. Promising myself this time, is in caps, I will complete the course. And I'm great until week 5. Sometimes it's the holidays, sometimes work. I get lost in bad habits. I always return for the same reason I first started. ModPo is where my life goes off script. Yes, I feel rough edges of inadequacy, contrasting my lack of expressiveness with others. A clover in a rose garden. But glad to be in the yard, comforted by the civilizing force in brutish times. That's Jen Lanter, everybody. Thank you, Jen. I know you're watching today. Thank you. Thank you for squeezing us in. Sophia, hello. Do you have the mic?
You want me to follow that?
I'm sorry.
Okay.
But you can. You're amazing. You're brilliant.
Thank you.
Now I really loaded it up.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I think it's obvious that ModPo taught me a lot about poetry, but it also taught me a lot about teaching and in turn learning. And I don't think I had necessarily considered teaching and learning like two branches of the same verb before this course, which was really enlightening and fulfilling in a poetry classroom. And I think we're taught from a really young age that you have to be called on to participate in a classroom, or you have to be asked for a response before you can give one. And ModPo and poetry both kind of subvert that expectation for me. And that was also really fulfilling, to be encouraged to read and share and have a response with everyone else in the room. And I'd like to thank everyone who occupied this space, like physically or not, because we kind of learned from the pages, but also the people who occupied those pages and how people occupy pages differently. And that was just a really fulfilling experience. And I'd like to say really quickly thank you to all the TAs and you, Al, because this was a great experience for me, and I'm really grateful to have been involved.
Thank you, Sophia. Jonah, we're going to go to the phone, and then you're next. Then after that, I want to invite Jason Doherty, who came all the way from Baltimore, to say a few words. Lily?
Yes.
Who's on the phone?
Okay, on the phone we have our pal Mandana calling.
Mandana is on the phone. Great. Hi, Mandana.
Hi, Al. Hi, everyone.
Is that ankle in a cast?
The ankle is in a boot, and in about 10 minutes I'm leaving to go see the orthopedist and to see how bad a break it is.
Oh, gosh. Well.
Conceptualism just broke me, Al. Conceptualism broke me.
Well, there you go.
It's a very visceral reaction this year.
Yeah. Great. Well, hi, and thank you for everything that you do. And one of the many things you do for the ModPo community is you convene the New York meetups, and we're so grateful. And you show up here when you can, and you're part of this community in a big way. And we met through ModPo, even though you're a Penn alum, you know?
Exactly. I don't really have anything eloquent to say. Everyone has taken all the eloquent words and left me with the awkward ones. But this is just a very meaningful part of my life. Every single aspect of it. Everyone in that room means a lot to me. Everyone that we're seeing in those little boxes mean a lot to me. And, you know, T kind of made me cry with all the beautiful words she said. So I felt I needed to call in myself and just say thank you from the bottom of my heart for everything every single one of you does, and all the CTAs and all the participants who make it fresh every single year. You know, you think, how many times can I talk about Emily Dickinson and her narrow hands? And you realize you can talk about that every single year if there are new people talking about it with you.
Thank you, Mandana. That's so great. See, you did say something beautiful.
Oh, thank you, Al. And you all have a wonderful day at the pizza party, and we'll see you all in Slopo. Thank you again, Al.
Love you,
This
Mandana.
is wonderful.
Take care.
Love you guys too.
See you soon.
Bye-bye.
All right. Mandana Chaffa, everybody. Yay. Jonah, then Jason. Hey, Jonah.
Hello, Al, and everyone. I just want to echo all the comments about how grateful I've been for this course. You know, starting ModPo at the start of the semester, I'd never taken any online classes before, or classes that were kind of hybrid online, so I didn't really know what to expect. You know, MOOCs often get a bad rap, and ModPo completely subverted all my expectations, surpassed them. So I'm really grateful for this co-constitutive learning we've been doing. And I just want to add to what everyone's been saying about how ModPo encourages us to write and speak and share. But for me, the biggest thing I've learned from ModPo this semester is how to listen and just not always have answers and be more comfortable with that and just kind of soak in the room. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Listening. I'm up with listening. Thank you so much. So we're going to go to Jason and then Ujwala.
All right, thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks for coming.
I'm happy to be here. This is my first time with ModPo.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to speak to something.
Who are you?
Hi.
No, somehow I think I should, already know you.
I don't. I get that a lot, like in grocery stores and Rite Aid.
Okay, I deserve that. And I totally deserve that.
But that's okay. I'm Jason. I'm from Baltimore. I'm a teacher. I teach things.
What kind of school?
Music mostly.
Ah, great.
Yeah. So
did you take the
theater.
day off today to come up here?
Yeah, I did. I'm cutting.
Hi, students.
I'm cutting work. So,
Mr. Doherty, he's here. Don't worry.
Yeah,
he's doing something smart.
It's all right. Do your homework. So, I wanted to say something to your ad. I actually signed up for this like almost a year ago. I saw some sort of ad come through something, and it said, sign up for this poetry course through Coursera, and it's free and all of that stuff. And it's 10. I was like, okay, and it might have been January or something. So I signed up for it. And then I forgot about it. And then I got an email from Al, hey, the course is starting. I was like, okay, well, let's give it a try. And I have to tell you, it's been fantastic. It's been a fantastic ride these 10 weeks. And one thing I got from it was I hadn't done anything with poetry since probably high school. And I could remember going to the bookshelves in my high school library. And you go to Walt Whitman, and it's this book from 1930. And it's got this really faded cover to it, and it's those old books that's kind of like that cloth fabric, and you kind of open it up and it creaks and it cracks, and it's you could smell the mustiness from it, and you look at the card catalog slip in the back, and the last person who signed it out was from 1972 or something like that, and you're You get this visualization of poetry and this old stuffiness. And from week one with Emily Dickinson and Walt Whitman, all of a sudden everything came to life. the mode of coming around these poems as a group just brought everything to life. And in week 2, all of a sudden, we connected it with people who are actually still alive writing poetry. And through that journey, it brought all of this just livingness to these words. I can even remember when we got to the chapter 9 poets, I was walking around and I would see like a street sign and I would be, look at those words. And like all of a sudden, like these things came to life. And so that was a really meaningful part to me for this poetry course. And the second was just the way it's organized educationally, being a teacher and seeing the different layers. Like this was an online course, but like here I am in a room with y'all and over the internets, probably, to a whole bunch of people all the way around the world, and we're all connected. And you can go through these different layers. You got office hours, you got these forums, you got these discussion groups meeting in different parts of the world. It's just wild. And now we're coming on to Slowpo. What? That's awesome. So I just wanted to thank everybody who's been a part of this. This has been really great. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason, and thanks for making the trip. Thank you so much. Okay, we're going to go to the phone, and then Ujwala will get the microphone. So, Lily, who do we have on the phone?
This is Nicholas Stern calling from Seattle.
Oh,
Nicholas. Hi, Nicholas. You're so fantastic.
Oh, hey, hello?
That was it.
Hello?
Nicholas?
Hey,
it's
hey,
Al.
how
Did you hear Amber Rose a minute ago?
Yeah, it's been really great talking to her on Monday. You know, she and the other TAs are so brilliant, such brilliant young folks. And
well, she's right here, actually. You can talk to her directly. Here's Amber Rose.
Nick, hi.
Hey. Oh, hey, yeah.
You are brilliant. You are brilliant, and I've been so grateful to be in conversation with you. Thanks for hanging out in my office hours.
Oh, well, yeah, it's been so much fun for me and such an honor to be, you know, part of ModPo. And, you know, I don't know, it's actually my 5th year and my 2nd year as a TA, and it was really funny to be asked to be a TA because, I mean, I've never had a literature or poetry course, and I mean, you know, I haven't, you know, like I've been out of school for so long, you know, and like I never studied that stuff, and so and my son was just starting as a TA in grad school last year as part of his,
and you got to be a TA before he did.
Responsibilities, so. So while I was doing it at the same time, I thought it was kind of fun. It was, you know. Anyways, it's been really an honor to hang out with everybody and to listen to the great things that everybody has to say. And I guess that I would like to encourage, you know, people not to be afraid to like voice their opinions because, you know, I mean, we all have opinions and they're just opinions, you know. I mean, you know, you don't have to be too attached to them, you know. You can be open to influence. So, anyways, you know, I just wanted to, I don't want to take up too much time. I think I'm talking too much, but I just want to thank everybody and
Nicholas,
send you all
it's
love.
Great. What you've said is so great. I just have this smile on my face that I can't get rid of. You're great. Thank you. I love this idea that you're a TA, but you've never actually studied poetry, so you get to be a TA of something you've never studied. I think that's a whole new way of thinking about being a teaching assistant. It's great. You know, when we asked you to be a TA, a CTA, it wasn't because we checked your resume or anything. We just looked at all the brilliant things you said in the course, and we decided that's evidence enough. I like that hierarchy. I like that system. Yeah. So anyway, thank you, Nicholas. Thank you so much. It's great. Stay
Thanks,
with
Al.
us. Okay,
So,
man.
See everyone in Slowpoke. Bye.
Okay, bye. That was just, I can't stop smiling at that. Ujwala, hello. Hi.
Hi.
I want to ask India, who doesn't love to do this, but will do it, I think, today, if she would mind. Okay. Ujwala first.
Right. Where do I start? So I had heard of ModPo, or I joined ModPo when I was in about, I think, 3-4 years ago, but I didn't complete the course. And
Where were you at the time?
I was in Nepal with an amazing community of poets back home, and then and educators, and I was having the time of my life. I'm still. It's a privilege to be part of that community back home. But along the lines, what happened for me was that I started fearing writing. I started fearing interacting with text for some reason, and especially because people associated me with writing, and it just, I don't know, this fear somehow overwhelmed me so much. And then it took me going away from everything that I hold so dear, and coming to this world, going to this new place that wasn't actually really new. I had roots in this place from 4 or 5 years ago, and I remember clearly looking at a couple of the videos and being like, that's what education, that's what college should be like. That's what I want to go to college for. And I came to college. I almost missed this, but somehow I found out about this, and I'm here. And it's just like coming back to something that was there, like someone said about the postcards that you send yourself. So this is like that for me too. And this is also like being a clover among the rose. But I'm so glad I'm here, and that I'm slowly and steadily overcoming that fear.
Ujwala. So lovely. Thank you. So you did ModPo, and then you ended up at the University of Pennsylvania in a graduate program a couple thousand feet from ModPo, and you sort of realize it, and now you're in our grad seminar and back in ModPo. That is a great circle. I didn't quite fathom it until you just said that. Right? I mean, that's just so amazing. Yay. India, hi. How are you? Good. Are we getting sound on India? Chris? Press the button.
Hello?
Yeah.
Oh, hi. So I guess the thing that lots of people have said that I wanted to stress as well is the sense of community that ModPo creates. And one of my favorite things that happened during the course of this term was when I interviewed one of the long-term ModPoers, Nicole Braun, and she had such incredible things to say about how ModPo has affected her life. And it really, I found it really, really moving. I wanted to read a little bit of what she said and just shout out to her. But she said, it's improved the quality of my life immensely. It's changed everything. It's given me a sense of stability and a feeling of home. I've made great friends and learned so much. It keeps my brain active and brings me so much meaning and joy and happiness, and has even given me a bit of confidence. And she's a full-time teacher and finds it very hard to kind of commit, but she took her role as a mentor really, really seriously when she was given that by the ModPo team. And I thought it was really heartwarming to hear how much she put into ModPo and how much she got out of it as a result. So that's my happy ModPo experience.
Thank you, India. Thank you so much. I want to turn to Jake Marmer, who has appeared. Jake, we're doing final words. How are you?
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Do you have a final thought for us, or do you want to wait a little longer?
Sure. I'm ready anytime.
Okay.
I was reading a great interview with Clarence Major, who's a superb poet and novelist. And in the interview, he says, experimental writing is much more fun to write than to read. And of course, he's being humorous about it. But, this year, more than other years, I've experimented. I've in the classroom where I taught, I've experimented with, different writing methods that we see in ModPo, and I had my students given them an opportunity to write these experimental poems, and see how much fun it is. Folks who don't normally engage with creative writing to do that. And this year also, more than in previous years, I've noticed how much writing there is in the ModPo community. There are all these threads where people are writing and sharing their own writing. And one of the CTAs sent me a wonderful sample of his own just a few days ago, Nicholas Stern. So I love that it's a community of readers, inspired readers who are also writing and generating poetry as writers.
Thank you, Jake Marmer, everybody. Yeah. Thank you, Jake, for everything, and say hi to your students. I want to turn to Austin in a minute. Hi, Austin. You're hiding, but you're there. I know you are. But first, I want to cite and shout out to and quote some final words from Lisa Geisler, who's just a great ModPo participant. And she writes, a guest poet said during the Week 9 webcast, poems are utopian places. And then I say ModPo is a utopian place for me. It is far more than a respite for these disturbing and enraging political times. It is an antidote to the hate, narcissism, meanness, and rigid thinking I see all around the United States. It is a radical idea that we can have passionate discussions and disagreements and still be kind and generous to each other in the process. A shout out to the ModPo team and so on. I love this community of poetry lovers. It is an empowering and challenging pedagogy that introduced me to avant-garde poetry and taught me how to read and stay, taught me to look for the how of the poem, etc. This course also helped rehabilitate my brain, which due to a chronic illness and brain fog, had difficulty finding words and stringing sentences together. I've since improved, and through the support and encouragement of everyone I came into contact with in this course, my confidence and ability to think critically has developed. It's an incredible thing. I love the webcasts. Thanks, everybody, for the webcasts. Amazing events. People from around the world convening via Twitter, Facebook, the thread, phone, etc. Damn exciting. I've taken a couple of other MOOC courses and have yet to encounter a webcast or instructor and TA office hours, so huge thank you for everybody involved in making the webcasts happen. And a shout out to the brilliant, thoughtful, generous TAs. I love office hours, 2 exclamation points. So many amazing conversations and revelations this year. And a last shout out to the Global Study Group, wonderful, brilliant, funny, informed group that taught me how to deep dive, which returns me to ModPo as a utopian space. Thank you, Al, for recognizing she's referring to a comment I made at the end about people who are chronically ill involved with ModPo. And thank you, Al, for recognizing and acknowledging how important this online course is to the chronically ill who can't participate in other university courses for physical reasons. It made me cry for the best reasons. That's Lisa Geisler. Snaps for Lisa Geisler, everybody. Okay, Austin, how are you? No, you got to push the button.
Hello.
Hey.
Okay.
And then after Austin, I want to turn to Hannah, who's sitting, I think Hannah's sitting in front. Yeah.
Yeah, she's
right.
right.
And then we're going to start to wrap up, but I want to make sure we get a few other final words, and then I'll have a final word.
Yeah, at least half of the people in here today were in this graduate course together, and we're earnestly participating in ModPo, but also every week, every Monday, this afternoon, we'll be doing it. Reflecting on that experience and especially focusing on the pedagogy and the process of teaching and learning, which as a graduate student, it's a completely novel experience for me. Probably that's kind of a negative comment about a lot of graduate seminars in a way. But, we're learning how to become teachers ostensibly. But not very much emphasis is really placed on how to do that. There's some sort of assumption that you just kind of figure it out whenever the time comes. And I've appreciated the really intense effort to be conscious about how one approaches that task and that task is a really significant responsibility, not just something that you're going to do eventually and you do it however well you do it, but it actually educating people is something you're going to be engaged in a lot of different areas of your life. So that has meant a lot to me. I've also been struck by really the therapeutic potential of the course that I've seen, especially in the wider community, like how much poetry is opening up to people and what it means to them in their personal lives. So those are my final words.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Austin. That was great. Okay, so here's what's going to happen now as we glide toward the end. And I apologize to anybody who came ready to do a final word who's not going to get a chance to do it. I want to ask B and Leah and Connie. Then there's Davey, Zach, and Chris, and Lily, and then Al. So, and yeah, so we're going to turn the phone off, and apologies to people who've been trying to get through. In fact, Anna wanted to be here. Everything was set. Maine started to have weather. Maine, the state, way up there, had a lot of weather, which in Maine this time of year means white, fluffy weather. And so she had to, her flight got canceled and she's out at the airport. She was going to try to call in, but I imagine that she had trouble doing that. So, a shout out to Anna, who coordinates ModPo, who's totally amazing, who's going to watch the recording here, and therefore put your hands together. Yep, there's Erica doing snaps. Yep. So Anna's the best. She's amazing. And I'm sorry she doesn't get to do a final word today, but that's the way things are when you're trying to travel to Maine. Okay, so B, Leah, Connie, Lily, Zach, Chris, Davey, Al. That's a lot, but let's see what we can do. Sorry, Hannah.
Hi.
Hannah's first.
Is this microphone still on?
Yeah, you're good. Hey, Hannah.
Hi. I'll be really brief. I echo the thanks that everyone else has shared for the wider ModPo community. But as a first-year grad student at Penn, I want to especially thank the community that I've been able to join in the classroom here in person in our seminar. It's been wonderful to meet all of you, to listen and think with you. And thank you to our TAs and to Al.
Thank you, Hannah. Okay, so B, you're right there. Hi, B.
Hi. So I guess I came into this class with a very prepared, organized research project that I wanted to work on. And I felt pretty confident that I would just kind of get out of the class what I needed and then move on. And instead, the person who was on the phone who said life goes off script, I feel like I sort of cracked open about 3 weeks into the course, and partly with the content and partly with what's going on in the world and partly being a sexual assault survivor. And somehow all of those things came together and made it impossible to think a lot of the time. But I still feel like I've got a ton out of the reading, the people. I'm starting to kind of work my way incrementally through everything. And just, yeah, as everyone has said, like the warmth and the acceptance of Al, the TAs, Lily, I'm going to call out especially, and the fact that you can think about trauma through poems was something I didn't really realize before and has actually been really helpful. And I think especially thanks to Davey and Amber Rose on that point. So it's, yeah, I think that language really relates to actual things in life, and that poems relate to actual things in life has been a big thing for me. So thanks.
Thank you, B. Thank you so much. We're going back to Leah. The mic way back to Leah in the back.
Hello, everyone. This is working. It is very moving this morning to hear how important this course has been and is to people all around the world, because it has allowed them to make room for poetry in their very busy lives. And this is an amazing thing to hear. I come from a quite teacher-centered environment, so this has been an experience, and one that has given me a lot of food for thought. So I'm very grateful to all of you for that. And coincidentally, this is also the semester that I've been teaching for the very first time. So I feel like I've been learning a lot, suddenly. And I know that, among others, all of you here are to thank for that. So thank you for creating that community of resistance and resilience and joy. Yes.
Thank you, Leah. Thank you so much. Connie is next, and then Lily.
I think I'm echoing mostly everyone else's thoughts here, but one of my favorite things about ModPo has been the sense of community and just being able to listen. I feel like hopefully leaving this experience, I've been a better listener as a result of this. And I remember emailing Al in the beginning of the semester before this course started, and I asked him something like, would this course be right for me? Because I'd only dabbled really in surface knowledge of poetry, and he said, yes, it would. And so I joined the course. I'm in the graduate seminar, and just I feel like thinking about it, it would be so much more daunting to do alone, or really anything in life, but being able to do it as a collaborative experience is just so much more productive, and it's warm, and it's just it's been a great experience.
Thank you, Connie. And now Lily Applebaum.
Oh yeah, I've got a mic back here.
Oh,
Thanks.
I got her
Thank you,
covered.
Connie. Jeremy challenged me on Twitter to use the word epicenter in my final words. So I will say, speaking from the
Jeremy
epicenter,
Dixon said use epicenter.
yes, it was a challenge. So
Oh my gosh.
here we go, Jeremy. Hope you're listening.
Can you do that in every sentence?
I don't think so, but speaking from the epicenter of ModPo, the Kelly Writers House, I want to say that this year is really exciting because of the grad seminar that we're teaching, and also next in the spring semester, Al and Anna and I are going to be doing a professional development seminar for Philadelphia public school teachers that's based also in the ModPo curriculum. So for me, what's really exciting about ModPo this year is how much we're focusing on teaching and pedagogy, like possibly, if it's possible, even more than we usually do. And I feel just really proud and excited to be part of a group of current and future teachers who are thinking about in a content way, but mainly in like a form of teaching based way about how to include multiple perspectives, multiple voices, open meanings, different abilities, like in their classroom, using the poetry and the tools of ModPo, maybe not even to teach poetry, but to teach something, thinking about ModPo as like a teaching and pedagogical framework. And I feel happy that radiating outward from the epicenter of Writers House, future teachers will sort of take that into their classrooms, whether they're in Philadelphia or, around the world through the Teacher Resource Center or wherever our grad students go on to teach next. So I just want to say thanks to everyone who puts all the deep consideration and the sort of like mind-bending ability to think about pedagogy and content at the same time. It's really hard. And yeah, thanks to all of our grad students who are doing amazing work this semester. And all the community TAs and my fellow TAs, and to Al and Chris and Zach, and yeah, to everyone. So thank you.
Lily Applebaum. You know where you are in relation to ModPo, Lily?
Where?
Jeremy Dixon. Thank you, Lily. You are the best, as I say
thanks,
a
Al.
lot.
Now I'm going to go get our pizza. So
Yes.
goodbye,
Okay.
everyone.
So there's going to be some pizza here for those of you who are here. T, sorry, if we sent the pizza to you, it would not be good by the time it arrived. But there's a couple more people, and then you'll bear with me because I have a few shout-outs at the end. So Chris Martin, pick up the mic. Chris Martin.
Test 1, 2.
People, Chris Martin is, nobody does this better. I mean, he and Zach have pulled off something. I mean, he is, I think I've mentioned this before, he gets invited constantly to travel, to go to conferences. Like, how do you do this? It looks effortless. It ain't. This is hard, this webcasting thing. So, Chris, thank you. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, totally. You're welcome. Yeah, I get asked all the time if I was a poetry person first who learned technology or if I was a technology person who learned poetry, and the latter is true. I'm a technology guy, and I really enjoy poetry and know more than probably any other technology guy around here about poetry. But my real job is technology, and when I was brought on here to work with Al, it was before ModPo and before Coursera. And I remember that moment when Al told me first about what we were going to try to do. And we had no idea what the next day was going to be like every time the course is running. Are the forums going to work? Is this going to work? Is the site going to go down? Who's going to sign up? All these different questions would come up. And honestly, I was thinking about it this morning. I had no idea if you asked me back then where we would be in 2018. And it's been such a fun ride. And I'm so glad that everybody here is involved in making it such a fun and interesting and global community. And as a technology person at a university, I can't think of something more noble than getting to work on a project like this, where my job is helping to create this global community from a technology standpoint. So it's the first thing I tell anybody I talk to about what I do at Penn is I talk about ModPo. So thank you for having me.
Chris Martin, thank you for having me. More Epicenter. Another person whose middle name is Epicenter, Zachary E. for Epicenter, Cardiner.
Close.
Zach.
Very close.
What is your middle name?
It's David. So you're one letter off.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Not bad, though. Yeah, I don't have terribly much to say following that. I will say that Anna and I are getting started on certificates. There's going to be a bit of a lull because of Thanksgiving. So if you're waiting for your certificate, it will probably be a couple weeks. For our American friends, happy Thanksgiving. For our non-American friends, you should, while you're waiting for your certificate, you can watch some ModPo Minute videos, some old ModPo Plus videos, and just kind of relax and enjoy Slowpo as it starts. And that's about it.
Thank you, Zach. You guys are the best. Boy, just the setup and breakdown of this thing is kind of amazing. Okay, so now there's Davey, and then there's Al, and then there's pizza, so please don't leave. Okay, Davey Niddle. Davey Niddle, superstar, ridiculous. Davey Niddle.
Hi, Al.
Hi, Davey.
So this is my third time through ModPo, which is hard to believe. And I've really been thinking about two things over the past 10 weeks that ModPo's helped me think through sort of in every part of my life. And one of those is thinking about poetry as a technology rather than a genre. Thinking about all the folks who are part of ModPo who want to use a poem to think through trauma, to teach global history, to teach political communication, to think about what language is and what it does. And something that working on ModPo has helped me realize is that what we want from our classrooms, regardless of what happens in those classrooms, is to help people think about language. That if you're in a science classroom, what you're doing is helping people think through language. That I had students over the summer who were nursing students who were really excited about there's a direct relationship between how people deal with their health and the health of their loved ones, and what I can explain to them about what's going on with their bodies. That like language is my technology as a nurse, language is my technology as a doctor. And ModPo is a space where we think about how that works. And the co-constitutive meta-pedagogicalness of ModPo for me is really a space to think about how do we help each other use language better, and how is a poem, an experimental poem, just like a technology for thinking about language. And so that's a real gift that being part of ModPo gives to me, and is something that I feel really lucky to get to do more so now than ever. The other thing is I wanted to say thank you to T, Mary Armour, and Mandana for helping me think over the past couple of months about what the legacies of American poetry look like in dialogue with poets around the world, and thinking about American poetry transnationally, about its transnational reception, about poets writing in all of the places where people are participating in ModPo, and the ways that ModPo can and does make space for, and can continue to work even harder to make space for, poets writing in other languages, poets writing in other geographies, poets both absorbing and refusing some of the legacies that are embedded in the ModPo poems, and recommending poets to me and talking with me about poets. And that's been a really generative and useful and lovely conversation to get to have, and one that I'm excited to keep having over Slowpo and on into the future. So thank you for doing this thing. It exists because you do it. Thank you for doing this thing. It exists because you do it.
Davey Niddle, everybody. Thank you, Davey. Okay, some shout outs for me, and then we're going to finish up with a traditional playing. It's 20 seconds of Sid Corman's It Isn't For Want, which we do every year. You'll see why. Thank you to Temi Okpaku, who learned in ModPo that a poet is someone who says a hard thing in a hard way. That's what Temi said. Thank you to Yolanda House, earlier mentioned, who's doing Twitter today in Thailand, who posted 77 times to the forums and often visited my office hours. Yolanda, you're great. Thank you to Roger McClanahan, who, with his partner Scott, left Manhattan and moved to Madison, Wisconsin, where they found another ModPo group, and they have been making CCCR videos from Wisconsin regularly. Roger writes, when I was diagnosed with Parkinson's, I thought that would be the end of my infatuation with poetry. It turned out just the opposite. My mind was more open than ever to wordplay and the thrill of, talk about working the quirk, huh? The thrill of finding the meaning or just the joy of listening to beautiful language. A special shout out to Mandana. So Roger and Mandana and Scott became friends in New York, and then Roger and Scott moved to Madison. A shout out to Mandana, whose words of encouragement over many years. Also to Max, who traveled from Chicago to Madison for our first meetup. Thank you to Sharon Ingraham, you know her as SE, who lives in Alberta, who once visited here at the Writers' House and recommends that everyone take us up on that invitation to come here and visit, who sends kudos to Anna. So Sharon is sending kudos to Anna, quote, who has wrangled the CTAs as long as I can remember. It's not quite as chaotic as herding cats, but I'm sure she's had her moments. And adds about the CTAs, some of my closest online relationships, and I could easily leave out the word online, were formed among this group. Thank you to Divya Marish, whose 64 posts to the forums have such depth and sophistication that I came to think of her as some kind of professor of poetry and or a poet and or at least a doctoral student, until I went back to her first introduction 2 nights ago and learned that she is a high school student in New York City, thus reminding myself again, that in ModPo we form understandings of one another based on what we say, on the quality of what we say, not who we are, what station or level or class or generation. Thank you to Nicholas Pound, an artist living in New Zealand who works in a canvas factory. Something about an artist working in a canvas factory, I love that. And listens to ModPo videos and webcasts as audio only while he's working, and reports that his new favorite poet is Ray Armantrout. Thank you to Sandra Gayesh, I can't pronounce it right, a recently retired software engineer who through ModPo has discovered poetry. And why did she want to do this? She said She did it for the community that naturally is formed around trying to understand poetry, to counter, in her words, quote, the occupational introversion that comes from 37 years in the computer science field. Thank you to Kristen Bush, our high school teacher in rural southern Georgia, who for 5 years has, at some risk of approbation from, is that the right word, of criticism from the school administration, taken her students through ModPo to help them encounter poems, poets, and poetry people. Thank you to Laura Arena, who's in Armenia, who runs a community darkroom for photographers and is doing ModPo in order to learn about making art in a communitarian way, and who, quote, loves reading poetry. It gives me the goosebumps, but I do not know enough and want to know. Thank you to Joe Medler, who has spent his whole life working, providing services for people with disabilities. Many of the people with whom he works have atypical ways of using language, and Joe says he's here in ModPo because, quote, I love words. Anyway, I personally have known Joe for years because we worked together for 6 or 7 years at a place called Frost Valley, where I spend much of my summer. And Joe ran the so-called Mainstreaming at Camp, or MAC program, which enables young adults with intellectual disabilities to be at camp away from home, often for the first time, for 2 weeks, having a combination of their own atypical approach in a so-called typical experience of a residential camping setting. And when I saw Joe in ModPo, I hadn't seen Joe in a couple of years. It made me think that my own personal motives for being part of the Frost Valley projects and creating the ModPo projects are really one and the same. Thank you to Lena Mehta, a homeschooled high school senior in Munich, Germany, who is doing ModPo in order to expand her imagination for her own songwriting. Thank you to Maureen Bailey, who likens ModPo itself to a conceptual poem composed of ready-mades and filled with found poetry and samplings of language and sounds. It is made new, she says, with each experience, ModPo is, and its meaning and meaninglessness, meaningfulness, but also maybe meaninglessness, depend upon all who participate as co-creators. Language here is remade, she says, and replayed in a wonderful community of meaning makers. Thank you, Al and ModPo team, for this work of art. She says, she adds, I plan to duck out of work for a couple of hours on Monday morning to go home and watch the Final Words Webcast live. Hi, Maureen. Ditching work for a couple of hours. While I watch, I'll be smiling as I think of all the people around the world who, like me, are connecting at that hour through poetry. And finally, a shout out to Dan Bergman, who on this day 7 years ago, despite at that time not being able to speak words, easily certainly, offered, when the mic was passed to him, he used a machine, a keyboard thing to convey to his father, who then reported in words, Michael was here, the words not impossible. Then Daniel grabbed the mic and said the word, and it's recorded, we have a recording of this, said the words, not impossible. Dan, an autistic person, took and excelled in ModPo that first year, and I happened to review his essay on Emily Dickinson and said, which was the first piece of writing he'd ever done more than a couple of sentences. It was a full page. And I happened to read it, and I said, just as I mentioned to Divya Marish, the high school student who I thought was a professor, I just said, Dan, this is a really great piece. I think you could improve this. This is really a good insight. Nobody had ever taken him as someone who writes that way. I mean, the online course does it. Then Dan was a ModPo CTA, and then he enrolled in classes at Penn, and he took my in-person version of ModPo English 88. And then Dan Bergman was admitted to Harvard University and is now finishing his Bachelor of Arts there, which just goes to show you what poetry shows us all the time. Not impossible. Okay, so we end with Sid Corman, because Sid is saying that the only reason he writes is to detain you, to keep you from going. That's all it's about. He's not interested in conveying information. He's not interested in telling you something, even if he's got something urgent to tell you. He's not interested in content in any way. He writes so you can stay. As long as you are, he is. And this is, of course, true now that Sid is gone. So after this, we'll end, signing off to all of you watching around the world. I will send out a recording of this thing. I hope you'll take another look at it. And here we go, Sid. And I got to put the...
all right. It isn't for want of something to say, something to tell you, something you should know, but to detain you, keep you from going, feeling myself here as long as you are, as long as you are.
ModPo 2018 is a wrap. Slow Po now. Thank you all for coming. Give yourselves a big hand.